Get your knife and fork ready to dig into a plate full of profits on the DFY Restaurant Revolution podcast with your host, recovering restaurant owner, Michael Thibault.
Hey everybody, thanks for stopping by for this edition of the DFY Restaurant Revolution video/podcast. I'm super stoked today. I've got one of my great friends who's an old time, not that he's old, but old time blood and guts restaurateur from way back in the day. And I'm very appreciative that he's here today because we're going to be talking about a topic that is so sensitive and important to all independent restaurant owners out there in the marketplace today. And the reason that I asked Ryan to come and join me on this call today is because so many of our clients, have reached out in our platinum groups and in our chats on, obviously costs are way up and a lot of them are just arbitrarily raising prices. And there's a right way and a wrong way to do that. And the motivation is completely different. So I'd like to introduce my special guest today, Ryan Gromfin, who's better known as the restaurant boss. And I've known Ryan for, like over 12, 15 years now.
It's been a while now for sure.
It's been a really long time. And he's an author, speaker, coach. He's the owner of Click Bacon, which he's going to talk about in a little bit. But he specializes, obviously, you guys know me. I specialize in the marketing and getting new customers, get your existing customers to come back quicker, spending more. And Ryan handles that ugly stuff. Where's the money going? The systems, the costs, the systems to control, your costs, which is so important nowadays. But Ryan has experience being a multi-unit operator himself, and he's helped thousands of restaurants. We've been on speaking gigs together. We've done trade shows. It's just been awesome. And I totally trust Ryan and his expertise and opinion when it definitely comes to, controlling costs for independent restaurants. So did I miss anything, Ryan?
No, I think you did a great job. So thank you, Michael, for having me here. And we kind of joked about it. We turned on the cameras, we turned on the mic. We've done so many of these together. So every single time is an absolute honor. I've met some of your members and we share a lot of people that get services from both of us. It's just always an absolute pleasure to be here and to add any value I can. And the topic today I know is like kind of when to raise prices, when's the right time to raise prices is, like you said, something I'm hearing from my clients. So yeah, a really important topic right now.
Yeah. And it's just, Ryan's being obviously extremely modest because we could sit here and probably talk about his background and pedigree, for a half hour. But when you find somebody in this business that you trust to refer and share clients with, that says a lot. And I don't do that with a lot of people, but Ryan has helped out so many, of our clients when it comes to, controlling their costs and adding more profit to their bottom line. So I wouldn't obviously be doing this if I, had any doubts about Ryan's capabilities. And he is the go-to guy, when it comes to controlling costs and systems inside your restaurant for having a more efficient, well-run business. But like I said, I've heard so much from our members on, increasing costs. And, their first question is, well, what the heck can we do about it? And they automatically go to raising prices. Now you're in the game, you're in the blood and guts of it, each and every day. What have you heard, from your clients and different restaurant owners, about rising costs and raising their prices?
Sure. So first off, you're getting me in a great mood today. So it's going to be a little feisty. I call these days Diet Coke days. This is my vice. And today is a Diet Coke day because anything stronger than this is illegal and I'm not allowed to have it. But let me take 30 seconds here. For those of you who don't know who I am, like Michael said, like Ryan Gromfin is my name, the restaurant boss, Click Bacon, but I help restaurant owners with systems, processes, procedures, increase profits, etc. And so, yeah, this topic comes up a lot when I'm talking, with my clients about when to raise prices. Should I raise prices? My costs are through the roof. My food cost is high. My labor cost is high. Hey, Ryan, I'm going to raise prices. And I'm always like, hold on. Like maybe, but I have a line and I say, don't make your problem their problem. So kind of flat blanket statement. First thing is don't make your problem their problem. You may have a higher than desired cost of goods sold, a higher than desired labor cost, but have you put all of the effort into discovering that problem, that challenge, that issue? Are you controlling the controllables as best you can? And if it's okay, can I tell this story really quick here? And I want your help with this because I think it's going to really set up what we're going to continue to talk about here. Does that work for you right now?
Hey, if it doesn't involve me in New Orleans on Bourbon Street, you go for it.
And it doesn't involve our friend on the Lion scooter and some dental work that happened either. Yeah. So we'll leave that one for another time because that's one of my favorite stories to tell, by the way. But no, so we've all heard of In-N-Out Burger. Now, maybe you're intimately familiar, having grown up in Southern California like I did, having eaten In-N-Out tens of thousands of times. Maybe you just know who they are, right? Totally simple, straightforward, classic 50 styles burger, super high volume. And to give you guys an idea of how high volume In-N-Out Burger is, In-N-Out has 450 locations, let's call it. Five Guys has 5,000 locations, let's call it. Now, because In-N-Out is not franchised and not publicly traded, it's a privately held company, nobody knows exactly what their average unit volumes and sales are, but plenty of people with calculators and using AI can just very quickly figure out approximately what they do in sales. And In-N-Out, it is estimated, does more in sales out of their 450-ish locations than 5,000 Five Guys. So it just kind of tells you, like, again, when we're looking at like a Chick-fil-A, Chick-fil-A's do 9, 10, 11 million a unit. So we're putting In-N-Out on par with that. These are insane volumes. So the question I have for you, Michael, you have a background cooking and your audience does too. So this question's for everyone, but since I got you here, if you and I locked ourselves in a room for 1 hour, one day, could we make a better hamburger than In-N-Out?
Probably not.
You don't think so? You don't think with your talent and my talent, we could make a hamburger that tastes better than In-N-Out?
It'd take me more than an hour.
Okay.
Because I did a chili contest years back and they looked at me like, because I had wild boar, venison, I did 3 different types of brisket, and yeah, it took me like 4 or 5 days. Because I went and, sourced all the ingredients and, obviously. And
I'm going to be arrogant. I'm going to say that if you give me 10 minutes to make a hamburger, I can make you a hamburger that's better than In-N-Out.
All right. Well, here's my caveat to that. I've never had an In-N-Out burger.
You didn't grow up in Southern California. Listen, this is the point of the story, is they're good burgers. Like when people say it's the best burger I've ever had, we're going to get to that in a second here. But the reality is, for those of you chefs out there listening or restaurateurs who've been in the business, we could make a burger better than In-N-Out. There's absolutely no question about it. But here is the question.
I was trying to be modest.
I know. And I got you off guard there. But could we make a better hamburger than In-N-Out, sell it for $4, serve it as quickly as they do, with as professional of a staff, in as clean of an environment, with locations as premium as theirs, pushing out 700, 800, 1,000 burgers a day consistently, and still make money? And I know the answer to that.
Well, I'll give you an answer. I wouldn't want to.
Flat
sounds
out,
like a boatload of work and a lot
flat
of headaches.
Out, there is no way we could do that. There is no way that we could make a burger as good as theirs, sell it for $4, do all the things incredibly well that they do, and still make money. So In-N-Out's secret sauce is not their delicious hamburgers. Their secret sauce is the price for their delicious hamburgers and an ability to still be profitable. And so while this is not a conversation about magic powers, superpowers, unique selling propositions, all the words that Michael and I love using, all these great salesy, business building words. Today's conversation is every time you raise prices, you introduce competition. Because while In-N-Out is the best burger you've ever had at $4, at $5, it's a really good burger. At $6, it's okay. At $7, you start to question it. At $8, no one's buying a burger from In-N-Out anymore. At $9, $10, they're out of business. They're bankrupt. They're done. They're yesterday's news. There is always a price that we no longer value something that we valued before, right? A Toyota at $35,000 or $40,000 is a good value. A Toyota at $55,000, $65,000, $75,000, I'm not buying a Toyota anymore, right? Even a Ferrari, even a Lamborghini has a place where it's no longer of value. So the reason I want to tell that story first and then kind of talk back into this is every time you raise prices, you introduce the potential for competition into the market. The reason In-N-Out has no competition, in my opinion, has no competition is because of their superpower. They make a really great product. They serve it fresh. They serve it fast. They serve it friendly. They serve it clean at a price that nobody else could do it and still make money. They've competition-proofed themselves. So when it comes to you, again, I say you probably will reach a point where you have to raise prices. You should raise prices. It's part of our business model. But I just don't ever want your first gut reaction to be, I'm not making the money I want to make. I'm going to raise prices. I'm not making the money I want to make. I'm going to make it my customer's problem. What I want you to do is,
So what you just said is kind of the crux of this whole, reason why I wanted to do this interview. Because in the line that you had earlier, everybody, should write it down, about don't make your problem your customer's problem. Because, and I've had so many clients that, I just met with a client 2 weeks ago, good friend of mine, upper scale restaurant, sat down with him and he's like, yeah, I got to raise prices, again. And I'm like, again? Like how many times? He goes, we've raised them 3 times in the past, 6 months. And he's an upper high end, restaurant. I get it. Costs are up, but the first reaction, the first knee jerk reaction, like you just said, should not be, well, I'm going to pass this off to my customers.
Because I'm going to make it their problem.
Yeah, because as an owner operator, I don't want to go back and look at my food costs, my labor costs, my inventory control, my liquor, my beer, my wine. And you look at all these things that you have control over right now, whereas raising prices, yes, like you said, absolutely, you should do it, but really not after, I'm not before you take a look at your systems that are in place and your cost control. If you're running a fat restaurant, when I say fat, I mean you're not lean.
Something that looks more like me is what you're talking about.
No, God, no. But so, a restaurant that is running an inflated food cost, they're not running the projected labor that they need to, and they don't take the time to invest in those systems that are going to make them. You can't do that. You can't just run arbitrarily high, cogs and think, I'm just going to pass it off to my customers and people aren't going to notice and they're scrutinizing you and judging you more under a microscope now than COVID.
Because the government was printing money.
And costs are up. COVID was the great excuse for, once restaurants reopened.
COVID was the greatest 2 years in the history of restaurants.
Yeah. Give me a big big ass check and I'm going to double my prices because it's COVID and I'm not going to go back.
Give me, as in the restaurant owner, a big fat check, and give my customers a big fat check to come spend their money with me. Like, talk about double dipping of the century. But anyways.
But it don't, I mean, what do you suggest? Okay, a restaurant owner comes to you and says, Ryan, I'm dying here. I can't cash my checks. Can't pay my, Cisco. I want to raise prices. What should I do? What do you tell them?
So I'm a very practical consultant. I'm a very practical coach. So as much as I would love to sit here, and I can sit here and I can give you 13 things you have to do and all this stuff you have to do. Let's start with first. Like, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the questions like, do you know your food costs? Do you know your labor costs? How much do we trust those numbers? How accurate are they? How often are you looking at that? I want to validate those numbers. If you have them, we're going to start looking into that. I'll come back to this in a second. I understand that some of you out there don't have great access to those numbers. Different conversation for a different time. I'll judge you later. For right now, sorry, I said that with a smile on my face. If you're not watching, if you're hearing, you couldn't see that. For right now, the first thing I want to do is a competitive price analysis. Like, the first thing I want to do is just look at you compared to your competitors. What I need you to understand, though, don't tell me you don't have competitors because you're the only Italian restaurant for 5 miles. You can only tell me you don't have any competition when no one who lives in your community has a kitchen, there's no grocery stores, there's no movie theaters, there's no bowling centers, and there's no restaurants at all. Then you can say that you don't have competition. Like, if you had an aircraft carrier parked off the coast of Antarctica, you can tell me you don't have competition. But just because you're the only Italian restaurant or the only burger joint in town, that doesn't mean you don't have competition. When we're hungry, we'll eat anything. So your competition is every restaurant. Your competition is the grocery store. Your competition is the movie theater. Your competition is the bowling center. Because I can get food at all those places. I can have a bowl of cereal for dinner. So when I say a competitive price analysis, what I really mean is be honest with yourself. Look at 7 or 8 restaurants or food service outlets in your community that fit the same need. Not the need for burgers or pizza, but just, I'm a family of 4 that needs a quick meal tonight. Okay, well, grocery store is an option. Costco's an option. McDonald's is an option. Those are all options. So how do I compare to those? Now, of course, we're also going to focus in on your direct competitors, but I want to see a list of 15 or 20 competitors to you, and how do they rank similar items to yours? And then let's just get a general feel. So that's the first thing, competitive price analysis. Like, how do I feel compared to the community? Another thing that's kind of quick and dirty that I do is I look at my guest counts, not check counts, but guest counts. Are my guest numbers down? Because a lot of times you may be flat in sales or maybe even up 5% in sales. But like Michael said, if you've raised prices 2 or 3 times over the last year, you're artificially inflating your sales. But if your guest counts are falling, we're losing customers. So I want to look at that. As you're increasing prices, if your guest counts aren't staying flat or going up, your business isn't growing. Now, there's many factors that can go into that, but that's sort of my first general analysis. Then what I like to do is I like to look more detail. I like to look at your food cost. I like to look at your overall blended cost of goods sold. I like to look at your labor costs. And then I just start asking questions like, what would we have to do to lower food cost 1 or 2 points? Again, depending on how good your data is, if you take inventory every week and we can look at waste and we can look at theft and we can look at spoilage, great. But there's just this innate gut reaction that people have when I say to them, if I said, hey, you have to lower your spend on food by $3,000 next month. Like, you absolutely have to. What are you going to do different? Usually they're going to be able to spit out an answer right away. They're like, we're throwing out a lot of food. I'm like, okay, Then let's find out why you're throwing out a lot of food. Usually they'll be able to spit out a quick answer and say like, man, portions are inconsistent. Great, then go fix portioning. But I cannot put enough emphasis on stand in your kitchen for 5 or 6 hours and just watch. Like, it is shocking how many restaurant owners I work with who sit in their home office, look at their computer screen, run all these numbers, and haven't stood in their kitchen in years. Stand in your kitchen for 2 or 3 hours on a busy shift. You will see dollars just being thrown out of the door, going in the trash can, going everywhere. And so again, like, I'm trying not to be overly analytical, because those of you that have all of that great data already, you kind of probably know what to do. I think this is usually more of a conversation for people who are just kind of, we're running our business, we're in it, we're dirty, we're in the thick of it, we have a bookkeeper, but we're not getting the data we really need. Like, I'm just going to raise prices. Go stand in your kitchen for 2 or 3 hours.
It's something you brought up. It's timely data too, right? I mean, if you're getting this stuff, from a month ago, it's kind of late to fix things if you don't have accurate, timely data, right?
Right. Most of my operators just say like, oh, I know my food costs. I work with a bookkeeper. And I'm like, great. When do they close out your monthly books? And like, today's March 26th. And they're like, I'm like, do you have February's numbers? And they're like, no, I haven't gotten them yet. I'm like, okay. So if you don't have February's numbers and it's March 26th, it's not helping you at all to know what January's food cost is as we're entering April. So like Michael said, I mean, and we can talk about ClickBacon here in a minute, but like, you need to know by Tuesday afternoon what last week's numbers were. If you don't have a system for knowing your prime cost, sales, COGS, labor, discounts, forget about the other stuff. Forget about rent, forget about utilities. That stuff's not controllable. It's important, but it's not controllable. If you don't know your prime cost numbers by Tuesday afternoon for last week, you don't have actionable data.
Right.
And it's not that hard to do.
Yeah, and especially nowadays. I mean, back when I, had the restaurants and I sold the last two in 2008, we'd work off a weekly P&L statement created in Excel, right? That was, hand entered in. I had a bookkeeper for the restaurants that, controlled this stuff. But one of the other things you brought up was stand in the middle of your kitchen, especially on a weekend, and see what's going out, in the trash. Two things that one of my favorite positions to work in my restaurant was bussing, because I was able to see, hey, are we over portioning?
Are we over
What are these
portioning?
people eating? Or do they not like it? I mean, you can see everything. And the other thing is clear garbage bags.
Clear trash bags.
I went clear trash bags with everything. Learned that one real quick. But
the first day I was working at the Peninsula Hotel. It was a 5-star hotel restaurant in Beverly Hills. It was my first job in a kitchen. And like day one, I was scraping ketchup out of a number 10 can. And I put the number 10 can in the trash can. And this old guy, Harry, who I turned out loving this guy, but old school, like Harry, walks by. He goes, and he stuttered a little bit. New guy. What is this? And I'm like 16 years old. I'm like, it's my trash. He's like, there's money in here. And he goes and he gets it and he grabs a spatula, rubber spatula. He goes, this is called a money saver. Use it. And I'm like, okay. And literally like yelled at me like through that stutter of, it's a money saver. And now that's what I call them now. I call spatulas money savers. That's what they are.
You've never forgotten that.
You've never forgotten that. I got yelled at.
And one thing that we're talking about, with controlling your costs and knowing your numbers and savings, when you're becoming more, a leaner, more profitable restaurant, you don't want to cut or affect things that affect your customer experience or are front facing, for your customer. Like, I know we need to repair the drywall in the ladies' restroom because it's falling off and they're getting hit in the head, and the hot water doesn't work in there. I'm not going to spend the money on that. We're going to wait on that. Those are the wrong things. And that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about systems that control your cost of goods sold and things that you are able to control that are wasteful, that all restaurants, it's the nature of the business, right? But it gets out of hand. It can be a beast that you just, lose control of. And starting that control is knowing your numbers in a timely fashion. And the other thing is what you referenced before about your competition, and finding out where you fall. That is the first thing I tell, my clients the exact same thing. Where do you fall amongst the competition, the group? Are you at the top? Which is fine if you're delivering.
Where do you want to be? If you're the person who says, I am the business that should be more expensive than everyone in the community, that's not a bad place to be. You just have to be there with intention. If you're the person that's like, we're kind of a mid-market restaurant, like we know that, like we're not trying to be the highest. We definitely don't want to be the lowest. We want to be right in the middle. Well, if you find yourself creeping up to the top and you're a mid-level restaurant, that's a problem. So just make sure that I think to what you're saying is be where you need to be with intention.
And the other thing I ask them, when we take a look at their menu and take a look at their pricing, you have to look at it from a customer's standpoint, and it's called perceived value.
Yep.
Like you referenced the In-N-Out with the $4 hamburger, and then at $10 they go out of business because
there's no more perceived value.
There's no more. You've exhausted or outreached your perceived value, and there's a lot of different ways to create perceived value in your restaurant, not only with the food, but the presentation of the food,
sure.
With your atmosphere, with your service. You're going to get different service at In-N-Out that you're going to get at, the Four Seasons, when you're ordering a hamburger. It's all about, perceived value. But if your price does not match perceived value,
right.
If there's a discrepancy there,
right.
You're going to lose customers. And that type of rhetoric goes really quick online in reviews. And you want a secret shopper? Go read your Google reviews. It's amazing to me how many restaurant owners don't pay attention. They're going to say, this place is overpriced. I can't believe what they charged me for this, right? So don't fall into that trap.
The best perceived, really quick on perceived value. My wife and I, we had two meals that brought up a memory. A couple of weeks ago, we went out, we spent a couple $100 on dinner for the two of us. And when we left, I was like, that was cheap. Because like the quality of the service, the whole experience, I was like, I wouldn't say that was cheap, but I was like, I'm totally okay with that couple $100 dinner. Like in no way do I feel like I overspent for what we got. And then 2 days ago, we picked up a $19 family meal from a local kind of Mexican grocery store restaurant, a whole chicken, rice, beans, tortillas, like 3 different salsas. And I opened it up and I was like, we just got ripped off. Because like they forgot the tortillas. They gave me this small thing of salsa. They gave me this small thing of rice. And I was like, it's not about the amount of dollars. It's about what you're getting for. When I opened it up, it was this tiny chicken that was cut weird. And it just had no perceived value to me. So again, it's not about $200 or $20. It's what Michael said. It's what's my expectation when I consume this experience. We all come to an experience with a preset mind of money, dollars. What's this going to cost? And when we fall out of line of that, that's when we have problems.
Yeah, and same thing. That's what I tell restaurant owners. We do a ton of restaurant websites. What are they interested in? They want to know your location, where you're at. They want to know your phone number if they have any questions they want to call, and what's your menu and your pricing. And show me a couple of pictures of the inside because I need to know, do I need to dress up or can I get in with sandals and shorts, right? I mean, I just gave you the perfect restaurant website template, in under 30 seconds. So if that perceived that you can charge what you want, go ahead, charge what you want. If you want to be at the top of the list, for your area, that's great. But you better be delivering a perceived value that outperforms
Right.
your competition for what you're charging, because that's what they expect. You're right. You got a preconceived notion when you go into that place. That better be up here. And we all have those stories, right?
Right.
I mean,
You have to
everybody's got them.
exceed your guests' expectations. If their expectations are here and all you do is meet it, like the least used star on a review system is 3, because no one says, "Hey, Michael, I want to tell you about a totally average meal I just had."
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's either, "Michael, I want to tell you about this amazing new restaurant," or, "Michael, I want to tell you about this restaurant that totally sucked." But no
Right.
one's like picking up the phone, calling their friends to talk about incredibly average expected experiences. So meeting a guest's expectations is not good enough. You have to
No.
exceed their expectation. You don't have to exceed it by a mile, right? What was it? Ken Blanchard, I forget the book, but 1%. You only have to exceed their expectation by 1%. But you have to exceed the expectation.
Right. And remember, I always say, if you've been listening to my podcast, nobody wants to go to a boring restaurant. Don't be boring.
No,
okay?
you gotta. We're selling fun. We're selling experiences. We forget that food is an experience, and we used to live in a world where just going out to a restaurant in and of itself was the experience. But now, I mean, I'm going to drive by 332 restaurants today to take my son to baseball practice. Why am I going to go to some lame, boring restaurant that serves the same frozen burger on the same frozen bun with the same frozen fries, iceberg lettuce, 2 slices of tomato, and 3 pickles? Why am I going to do that?
Yeah. Yeah. You just don't.
Yeah, you got to sell fun.
So before you tell us about clickbait, and
Sure.
I'll inform, everybody, where they can get information on it. You've heard us talk about it, but I've always wanted, I've never asked you this question. I've always wanted to ask you this question. Don't worry, it's nothing personal.
Oh no, even if it is.
I don't hear you. You don't talk about percentages a lot. Are you, what side of the fence are you on, or what school? I mean, are you like strict? All right, you got to hit a 32% food cost. You got to hit 20% labor.
Sure.
Where
I have
do
a
you
very
fall?
well rehearsed answer for this, because I have this conversation all the time.
I'm dying to hear this, because
Okay.
I've never asked you this over how many years we've known each other.
So I'm going to tell you something, and I'm going to break the rule, and I'll explain why I'm going to break the rule. There are general guidelines that are starting places for me. My rule is, if you hire a consultant, a coach, a company to come and help you do something, and they tell you you are running a 32% food cost, that is too high, it needs to be lower, I hope you politely look them in the eyes and say, "I never want to work with you again. Get out of my restaurant." Because there is no number that is right for them and right for you. These are your numbers. Now, again, I'm going to break that rule with some general guidelines, areas that are a starting place for a conversation for me. But I have clients that are running 42, 43% food costs and make more money than you and I can ever imagine. And I have clients that are running 23, 24% food costs that couldn't pay their bills tomorrow. So there is no number that is right. Also, everyone measures it differently. You will not find 2 restaurant groups that measure their costs of goods sold the same. There is no black and white for this. There's Ryan's way, which I truly believe is the right way, but nobody does it the same. Some include to-go containers, some don't. Some include discounts, some don't. Some take discounts on the top, some take discounts in the middle, some take discounts in the bottom. So until you know the answers to all of that, what I always tell people is, your numbers are your numbers. You should have a benchmark for where you feel you are comfortable. You should operate off of a budget at that benchmark, and you should compare yourself to yourself. With that said, generally, I'm a prime cost guy. So the first thing I look at is prime cost. I want to see less than a 60% prime cost. The reason I can say that is prime cost takes into account most of the factors that we see variables in how people measure. The only thing prime cost doesn't take into account is some people with to-go containers will put their to-go containers below prime cost. Some will put it higher. But generally speaking, prime cost should be sales minus discounts, minus cost of goods sold, minus labor. And so again, when I'm talking about someone who's running a 42, 43% cost of goods sold, they might only have a 16 or 70% labor cost. They could be a restaurant or a business that buys a lot of convenience products, that everything comes in a bag, they open it up, they microwave it, whatever. And so they have a really high cost of goods sold, but almost no labor to produce that. Vice versa, when you look at fine dining, most people think, oh, fine dining, high quality ingredients, their cost of goods sold is going to be really high. Most fine dining restaurants are going to run cost of goods sold in the 23, 24%, but their labor is going to be 35, 36%. So for me to sit here and say, if you run more than a 30% cost of goods sold, you need to raise your prices, you need to fix something, you need to get to work, that's just unfair. With all that said, my general starting place is about 2 to 3% in discounts, 28, 29% cost of goods sold, 28, 29% labor cost. That'll get you to that 60 number or below, give or take a few points. But again, if you're going to go up on cost of goods sold, if you're going to go to a 32, 33 COGS, well, then you better be at a 24, 25 labor. And remember, when I'm talking labor, I'm talking all in labor. I'm talking indirect labor. Also, I'm talking your employer fees. I'm not just talking about what comes out of your POS system.
Right.
Because that's going to account for another 4 to 5 points on your labor. So a lot of people will tell me like, oh, I'm running like a 23% labor cost. But then when I look at their QuickBooks, all of these additional fees are down below. Social Security, FICA, all that other stuff. You add that back in, they're at 31, 32.
Right. So this whole interview, probably the last 3 to 5 minutes, is well worth the entire. I'm probably going to cut snippets out of that and play that back over and over again, because restaurant owners love that type of information. I know you're the go-to guy when I got questions about cost savings, control, and systems. And I had the pleasure, Ryan showed me quite a while ago, the new system that he developed for ClickBake, in which it blew me away. And he's been working on this for a couple of years. He's got, tech experts and dumped a bunch of money. But what really turned me on to it was your dashboard and the ability to see things quickly in real time. And the way you've got it laid out, where you can see your costs, and then you have these visual indicators in the red or the orange and the green. I mean, it was just, here's the advantage of Ryan's, systems and development. He has tech guys, but he's a restaurant guy. I mean, you can tell just by the way he, gave us this dissertation on, percentages off the one question I asked. But he knows restaurants and he knows restaurant owners. He knows what they need to see to make their restaurant profitable and when they need to see it. That's why I think you've got a huge advantage over all these other, companies that are just cranking out, bookkeeping systems for any business. And, restaurants is obviously very unique. But just tell us a little bit about, ClickBake and what you've done with it.
I'd love to, and thank you. So you mentioned spreadsheets earlier. So when I left the industry and started coaching and consulting, I had this whole library of spreadsheets on my computer that I had acquired and built. And I mean, one of these spreadsheets, I remember I spent like probably a whole week, like 40, 50 hours building a spreadsheet. And then for years, I kept tweaking and tweaking. And it was super powerful. And I started by giving that away to my clients. And then I was like, you know what? Like, I gotta take this to another level. I sent that spreadsheet off to a software developer. And within like 3 weeks, we had the first version of ClickBake. And this was about 10 years ago, about 2013, 2014. And basically, ClickBake started as, it was all the great data that restaurateurs love off of their spreadsheets, but in a web application. So you could run reports and go back and look at data. Over the last 10 years, we've grown that, and it was very successful, and it's been incredibly fun journey to get feedback from restaurant owners. But about a year and a half ago, we had fallen pretty far behind on technology. And so I went out and I found some investors and I found some tech people, and we rebuilt a software tool that now uses all of the best technology, all the best AI, all these really great tools. It's super fast, it's super slick, and it's built for independent restaurants. And so what our software does is it's a dashboard, it's a reporting tool, it's an operations metrics, key performance indicator tool to help you know, where am I at in this moment in time? I believe in budgets. I believe that what we focus on, we fix. And so most of the tools out there have really clunky, really difficult to use budgeting. It all starts for us with a budget. Hey, this is how much I think I'm going to do in sales. This is what my target COGS is. This is what my target labor is. This is what my targets are. And then everything gets compared to that. So then we can see, like, you hit your sales last week or you didn't. You hit your COGS last week or you didn't. You hit your labor last week or you didn't. So like Michael said, in real time, you can look and be like, man, if I really want to hit my profit goal at the end of the year, if I want to hit 10% profit at the end of the year, I already missed my COGS in January. I missed my COGS in February. I got to get to work so I can repair this before the end of the year. Otherwise, operators are, right, we're hoping. We wait till the end of the year and we're like, hey, bookkeeper, did I make the money I wanted to make? And your bookkeeper's like, I don't know, you've known your numbers all year. What do you mean, did you make the money you want to make? It's all right there. But with our tool, like, you're going to know in real time. And again, what we measure, we fix. So if we know that we're having trouble in food costs, let's get to work on it. We fix it naturally just by looking at it. So again, I can get into the techies of this. I'll take 30 seconds, but basically we integrate with your POS. We pull in your sales and your labor data. We categorize that properly. That's a big challenge that a lot of bookkeepers have, is they just look at any money in as a sale. Gift cards are not a sale. Hold on. Gift cards are not a sale. It's revenue, but it's not a sale. It goes on the balance sheet. Sales tax collected is not a sale. It does not go into the sale column. It goes on the balance sheet. Deposits for catering events are not a sale. Tips collected are not a sale. So while that's money that came in, if your P&L right now says cash and credit card as your sales categories, first of all, your COGS are wrong, your labor's wrong, everything's wrong. You're also overpaying on taxes. You're paying sales tax on sales tax.
Sales tax.
You're paying sales tax on gift cards. You're paying sales tax on deposits. So first thing is, just most bookkeepers are just flat out doing it wrong. So we offer a free audit if you want to send us a P&L. But like I said, we take your sales, we take your labor, we categorize it properly, we push that to QuickBooks Online. Then we have an invoice extraction tool. So you send us all your bills, all your invoices, everything. We read it line item by line item. We categorize food to food, beer to beer, wine to wine, liquor to liquor, to-go to to-goes. We do all that for you and push that also to your QuickBooks. And then we bring all that into this beautiful world that you can look at, correct costs of goods sold, correct discounts, correct labor. We've done all the hard work for you. The best part about it is right now that service is a third the price of the competitors out there, because we're built for the independent restaurant operator. All those competitors, you know their names. They are not built for the 1, 2, 3 unit. They'll sell their software to you, and they'll gladly tell you that they are absolutely built for your $1 million, $2 million a year operation. But I have clients doing $12, $13 million a year that use some of those tools and have to pay consultants another $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year if they want to use it right. And I ask them, hey, what was your food cost last week? You know what they say to me? I don't know. And I'm like, you're spending $1,000 a month on software. You're spending $2,000 to $3,000 a month on bookkeepers, and you still don't know your food costs. That's the problem we're trying to solve. So if you have an independent restaurant, if you're not happy with your books, if you're not happy with the data you're getting, head to clickbacon.com, fill out the contact form. Let us know that you're part of Michael's group, of the DFY group. We will absolutely give you some specials. We will take care of you. Michael is amazing. You guys are amazing. And this is so off the cuff that we don't have like a whole landing page and everything set up. So just tell us that you came from Michael, and you will absolutely get the best that we can absolutely do for you. And that's a promise I make.
Yeah, head over to clickbacon.com or email us. You've been on our website. Those of you that have the free membership, shoot us an email. We'll hook you up with Ryan, and he'll take care of you.
And submit for an audit. Submit for an audit. Like, if you're just like, you know what, I don't know, like, send us an email. We'll set up a time. I'll look at your P&L. I'll look at your balance sheet. We'll look at whatever spreadsheets or whatever software you're using, and I'll just give you an honest assessment. Hey, I promise you, if I think you're doing it great right now and we can't provide a better solution, I'm going to tell you that because I care about restaurant operators. I care about this business. I'm not worried about picking up 1 or 2 sales. If this industry grows, we all grow. I just want to make sure you're getting the data you want.
Yeah, and Ryan's a straight shooter, and like I said, he knows independent restaurateurs. Ryan, thank you so much for doing
Thank
this.
you.
I super appreciate it. I know it's going to be really helpful to everybody that's listening and checking out. And remember, just tap like, shoot me an email, subscribe, whatever you're listening to, hearing this on your favorite podcasting channel, or you're watching it on YouTube. Please subscribe, shoot me an email, let me know. Thank you again, Ryan. Really appreciate it. This is Michael Thibault, saving the world one independent restaurant at a time. Cheers, my friend.
Have a Diet Coke kind of day.
There you go.
Thanks for listening to the DFY Restaurant Revolution podcast. Join us in the revolution by subscribing, rating, and reviewing on your favorite podcasting platform today.